You have sensitive information, you get captured. Let yourself go. Don't put yourself in the situation where they get the opportunity to present an incentive to you. Because if they do, it gets tricky. And this is the reality that we need to know, from my perspective at least, so that that's what we build strategies around. You're about to go into battle, Ibra. Life and death. You get to choose who has your back. Do you go with the one who promises to never betray you ever, or the one who says, I'll try, but I won't lie. If the stakes are high enough, I will think about it?
That's an interesting one. For sure, I'll take the one who swears loyalty, as long as they are not swearing on their ex's life or their Netflix password, right? Because that doesn't mean anything. Because for me, the intention has to be there that, you know what, I'm going to commit to this. And I think that changes everything, rather than, you know what, maybe not, if the circumstances or the situation is right, I might or might not. I think that's already nothing to me, to be honest. What about you?
Wow, that response is very interesting. Honestly, I would rather be the loyal friend, but I would never demand that from anyone else. Personally, I think expecting blind loyalty is a selfish fantasy because it ignores people's lives, the families, the fears that they have, the privileges. It allows one person to be able to say, it doesn't matter what incentive is on the table. It doesn't matter the position you put me in. I'm able to always be loyal. And I also think it's quite unrealistic. If you want someone to never betray you, I think it's not a question of loyalty. I think you're asking for a god. What we can hope for, from my perspective, is I hope that my friends are never in a situation to have to choose between myself and something that is also equally or even more important to them. That's what I would hope for. And I have to put that in my head because I think when everyone is put in a tight spot, a lot of other things start to impact what decision they take. And as I said, personally, I want to be the guy that's able to say, it doesn't matter what it is, I for sure will not betray you. Doesn't matter. That's what I want to be.
We're talking about going into war, right? I feel like, yeah, you're very right. In reality, right? In normal day to day, it's not even a realistic expectation. But I would argue that if you're going to war, that scenario is already different. The moment the general is looking at people below him, for example, and saying when it comes down to it, they could flip on him, then you're already defeated, don't you think? So I think in a war scenario, there has to be this till death do us part sort of. That's difficult, but in a war situation, I think that's.
I understand what you mean. However, I think this is also one of the reasons that they say if you get captured, rather than allow yourself to be interrogated, better to probably commit suicide. And the reason is because if you allow yourself to be interrogated, you put yourself in a situation where they can play around with the incentives for you. And personally, I just believe that it's a very tough thing to have, that for sure you can account for all the scenarios that the incentives can come in and make sure that this person stays loyal. I'll give an example. Maybe the example is not tying to the scenario of war, right? But I want to use it because it's just an example of how a scenario can get complicated. That this loyalty out of, regardless of the situation, this blind loyalty is a bit questionable. Should a friend let their daughter get offed to protect me because one thing or the other, right? That's one example. That kind of scenario, it starts getting a bit tricky. But then in the scenario of the war as well, rather than have a general expect that it doesn't matter what you put my soldiers through, they will always be loyal. That's also tough to expect. And how they deal with it is that there's different levels of privilege within the military. The lower guys, they don't have as much to lose as the top guys in the sense of personal loss. Of course, they might lose the war, they might lose their country, but they feel differently about it because of the status that they are in. For one of these reasons, at least, the top guys will have access to information that the lower guys doesn't have access to. So even in a war, the general is expecting that the only thing they can plan around is that when push comes to shove for our people, they will be betrayed. Even on the levels of the other generals, they still won't have everyone have all the information. That's the only way to secure it. Because when push really comes to shove, it's tough and you really can't even blame them. But on top of it, they now add the rule of you have sensitive information, you get captured, let yourself go. Don't put yourself in the situation where they get the opportunity to present an incentive to you. Because if they do, it gets tricky. And this is the reality that we need to know, from my perspective at least, so that that's what we build strategies around, not the other one.
So does it mean something different to you? I'm trying to phrase the question rightly. If someone is like solid and with intention saying, yes, for sure, you have my loyalty. Or it means more to you when the person says, you know what, it's actually not realistic anyway, so you know what it is. Hopefully that moment will come or something like that.
I think with the example that you just gave now, if the person frames it the exact way you framed the second one, I prefer the first one. But I think there's a way to frame the second one in a way that works. Let's use the example of religious people. You will see back then, people would pray not for anything, but for God not to put them to a test that makes them leave God. Have you not heard this prayer point before?
I've heard it, yeah.
And this is the framing that probably makes it a little bit better to understand. I think if someone tells me you've got my blind loyalty, I will still prepare strategy for what if. Because you can't really know the intention. You can't really trust. You can't really be that. If I would do my strategy in any case with the mindset of they might be put in a tough situation and I want to protect them. I've actually seen movies where the benevolent general, the super smart general, what he actually tells his people is not to kill themselves when they get captured. It's if you get captured, don't worry, say it. Yeah, give them the information if it saves your life. When he does that, those people as well in return, they fully understand that I'm trusting my general to manage the information flow such that the information that I give out does not wipe out the entire army. The general is taking on that responsibility in that.